introduces Mrs. Pressley is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I also want to thank the activists in the room who have been organizing for a more responsive Fed. I know, having been raised by a tenants' rights organizer, that activism can be a full-time job, and so we thank you for taking it on, and I thank the chairman for testifying before the committee today. Just as with Fed Now, the decisions you make do impact everyday working people. Your decisions impact how many jobs we have, who has what jobs, how much they're being paid, and who is most harmed when unemployment is high. Now, in the past, you've said we want prosperity to be widely shared. We need policies to make that happen. However, the Fed's approach has never successfully ensured enough well-paying jobs are available to everyone who wants to work, even for a small time. In a 1944 address, FDR called for a second Bill of Rights, which included the right to a useful and financially rewarding job. Justice Thurgood Marshall argued that the right to a job is secured by the 14th Amendment. And Dr. Martin Luther King called on the government to guarantee a job to all people who want to work and are able to work. Dr. King's legacy is often reduced to just one speech, and the March on Washington often mischaracterized. The March on Washington was actually the March on Washington for jobs and freedoms. It was a march for economic justice. And I take special claim to the fact that Dr. King and Coretta actually met in Boston. I represent Boston, and I don't think that she gets enough oxygen for the role that she played in the movement. And so after Dr. King's assassination, Coretta Scott King picked up the mantle, pushing the Fed to adopt a full employment mandate, and was actually standing behind President Carter as he signed the Humphrey-Hawkins Act into law, and that's the reason that you are here today. So in the interest of time, if you would indulge me and answer as succinctly as possible, yes or no, Mr. Chairman, given persistent concerns about inflation, do you believe the Federal Reserve can achieve full employment? And by full employment, I mean anyone who wants to work and can work will have a job available to them.
First, thank you for that history. I didn't know that. So that's our goal. That's what we're working to do at all times. And I think, we're never going to say we've accomplished that goal, but we've certainly made some progress.
I'll take that as a yes. Could a federal jobs guarantee succeed where the Federal Reserve has not? Yes or no?
That's a hard one to answer. You mean by, I don't know.
Guaranteeing a job. That's the history that I was providing. That anyone who wants to work and is able to work.
To the fiscal authorities on that.
So, Chairman Powell, by all indications, the U.S. economy has had output well below potential for 8 of the past 10 years, and for most of the decade prior. Is it true that most of that period has seen unemployment well above target, while we almost never seen inflation above target?
That is true.
Okay. So meanwhile, black unemployment remains double that of white unemployment. Now, the Fed began raising rates in 2016, even though inflation was still below target. And when rates go up, unemployment tends to as well. Did the Fed consider how raising rates would disproportionately impact those who are already struggling to secure employment, like communities of color, individuals who were formerly incarcerated, our immigrant neighbors?
So I would say that unemployment has continued to go down quite significantly since we began to raise rates at the end of 2016, actually the end of 15.
But again, did the Fed consider how raising rates would disproportionately impact those who were already struggling to secure employment?
I think our consideration was really that the right thing to do was to get monetary policy back toward a place where it reflected an economy that had recovered quite a bit for the benefit of all people, including low and moderate income people, including minorities.
There are a lot of people still recovering. But in the interest of time, given that there have been no signs of the economy overheating since then, and you're now cutting rates, is it possible you began cutting rates too soon?
I think history will judge that. We have to make the decisions in real time. We really have learned something since then, and that is that unemployment can be lower than most people thought without inflation.
So bearing that in mind, knowing what you know, would you still have supported raising the interest rates when the Fed did?
I did support it then, and hindsight's 20/20. I think you have to judge those decisions on what we knew at the time.
Would more Americans have jobs today if the Fed had not increased rates over the past 3 years?
I don't know. We're at a 50-year low. It's a fair question.
Thank you.
Thank you.